Susan Boyle achieved amazing success after her incredible audition on Britain's Got Talent. At first, people didn't think much of her, but her powerful voice changed everything. She had a great career winning America's Got Talent, the champions, and her wealth went over $45 million. Then, she suddenly disappeared from everyone's view. Join us as we find out what happened to the singer and more about her story. Susan Boyle is living proof that you should never judge a book by its cover. Susan Boyle was born on April 1st, 1961. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner in one place and sang, while her mother, Bridget, worked as a shorthand typist. Susan has 4 older brothers and 6 older sisters and grew up in a government house in Blackburn, Scotland, where she still lives. Kids picked on her at school. The only thing that gave Susan peace was her love for music. She sang in her church choir and also took part in local talent shows and did well in competitions. Her mother encouraged her to try out for Britain's Got Talent, but Susan thought she was too old, so she dropped the idea. Though she loved to watch it on TV, Susan could not try out when it started in 2004. But after her mother died in 2007, she finally tried out in 2008. She had been taking care of her sick mother until her mother's death. She had not performed in front of people until this moment. During the show Britain's Got Talent held in Glasgow, Susan amazed the judges and the viewers with her vocal cover of I Dreamed a Dream. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. Amanda Holden said it was the biggest wake-up call ever as she pointed to people looking down on Susan because of how she looked. After that, better known as Susan Boyle, famous people like Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher started tweeting to support her. After becoming successful worldwide, her audition video went viral on YouTube, getting the most views out of any YouTube video. Although she finished second in the competition and faced early challenges because she was exhausted, Susan began her new life as an artist, joining her fellow contestants on tour and working on her first album. Susan's story inspired many people, showing that dreams can come true at any age. Her debut album, I Dreamed a Dream, came out in November 2009 and broke sales records, selling over 2 million copies worldwide in its first week. It remains the fastest-selling debut album by a female artist ever recorded. From the start, Susan's dream seemed as far away as the stars. She was the youngest of 6 sisters and 4 brothers, born when her mother Bridget was 47 and had little money to care for another child. The birthing process was nearly life-threatening, and Susan was briefly without oxygen, which led to her learning disabilities, or so she was told. Later, at the peak of her career, she discovered something completely new about her diagnosis. School was a harsh experience for Susan. She was relentlessly bullied by other kids and teachers alike. In a heartfelt interview, she shared how hard it was to keep up in a system that valued speed and quick learning. She said, "I was a slow learner. I'm just a little slower at picking things up than others. So, you get left behind in a system that wants to rush on. That was what I felt was happening to me." Her teachers cruelly punished her with a belt when she struggled with schoolwork. Her classmates nicknamed her Susie Simple and constantly insulted her, making school the worst time of her life. Bullying and corporal punishment stunted her self-growth and created more obstacles in her academic journey. Taking the stage on Britain's Got Talent was Susan's subtle way of proving her tormentors wrong, showing she could achieve something great despite their cruelty. Her performance was sweet revenge. She later wrote and performed You'll See on her first album, a song reminding her bullies that she made it despite their heartlessness. However, her path wasn't easy. In 2011, Susan revealed a tragic part of her childhood. Apart from the undiscovered learning disorder, she also had epilepsy. The doctors had given the correct diagnosis, but those who were close to Susan, her parents and teachers, couldn't deal with the epileptic condition. The doctors had made a correct diagnosis, but her parents and teachers didn't know how to handle Susan's epilepsy. This condition isn't unknown among musicians. Sir Elton John, Neil Young, and Lil Wayne also suffer from epilepsy. However, in Susan's case, the diagnosis was severely mishandled. She recalled having seizures at school regularly, which provided more ammunition for her bullies. She would faint during lessons, and upon regaining consciousness, Her peers would gather around, call her names, and laugh at her. At home, things weren't much better. Her parents would overprotect her during episodes, and if the problem became too troublesome, they would leave her to fend for herself. When she asked for extra help, her father would call her touchy. The general assumption was that Susan's epilepsy was linked to her learning disabilities, which wasn't the case. So, the condition went untreated. It is no surprise that Susan graduated from school with few qualifications. She had trouble finding a job due to her lack of qualifications and undiagnosed learning disability. According to Susan, she applied to many places but either didn't get a call back or failed after her first interview. She eventually got a job as a trainee cook at Blackburn College, which lasted only 6 months. Mostly she had to move from one government training program to another without a stable job or good income. Despite these challenges, she found joy and solace in performing at local venues, which was the extent of her musical career until a tragic loss pushed her to pursue a dream she hadn't dared to before. Despite having a tough family life, Susan Boyle believed in forgiving, kindness, and selflessness. She didn't have much growing up and wasn't a romantic, famously saying during her Britain's Got Talent stint, "Never been married, never been kissed." Her modesty and decency led to significant life decisions. After her father's passing, all her siblings eventually left their 4-bedroom council house, leaving behind their old, sick, and frail mother. Only Susan and her 10-year-old cat, Pebbles, stayed. Even after becoming a world-class musical artist and earning millions, Susan still lives in her childhood home, embracing the simplicity of her life. A neighbor mentioned that when her mother, Bridget Boyle, died, Susan wouldn't come out for 3 or 4 days or answer the door or phone. Susan is a practicing Roman Catholic, singing in her church choir and volunteering by visiting elderly members of the congregation in their homes. She described her life as mundane and routine before stardom during a 2010 episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show. In 2012, Susan was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and made this public in a BBC interview in December 2013. Additionally, she also has epilepsy. In November 2012, when asked about internet dating, she joked that she was too scared, saying, "Knowing my luck, I'd go out on a date and you'd find my limbs scattered around various Blackburn dustbins." In July 2013, Susan endorsed the Better Together campaign to keep Scotland as part of the United Kingdom in the 2014 independence referendum. She stated, "I am a proud, patriotic Scot passionate about my heritage and country, but I am not a nationalist." She added, "We have retained our proud identity while being a part of Britain." Susan is a non-drinker, and she is a type 2 diabetes patient who was first diagnosed in June 2013. In November 2014, the media reported that she had a boyfriend who often claimed to be her first boyfriend, and they were almost the same age. She suffered a small stroke in 2022 and later shared this during an episode on June 4th, 2023, after a Britain's Got Talent show. What do you think motivates Susan Boyle to remain in her childhood home till today? In Britain's Got Talent, despite her kind-looking face, Susan Boyle's appearance was shunned since she had no fancy attire. But her beautiful voice stunned everyone, including the judges. The change from the terrible scenes of bullying to the one where she gets a standing ovation before, during, and after her performance attracted attention worldwide. Susan's audition went viral in a week, and the clip that showed her was watched over 100 million times. Compilations of her earlier performances, such as her 1999 Cry Me a River performance, went viral. Susan faced the challenges of sickness and fatigue throughout the show. Still, she made an excellent final standing, for which she eventually came second only to the dance group Diversity. However, she had won the most important battle of her life. Due to the events depicted in Susan's show, many people realized people should never give up on their dreams, no matter how old they are. Her first album, I Dreamed a Dream, was released in November 2009 and was a crushing success. It became one of the fastest-selling debut albums by a female artist. It sold more than 2 million worldwide in the first week of its launch and became the record breaker in UK sales.